thanks for having me back. I got an experience to do this last year, and it was so cool that you guys put that on YouTube, because now I was able to engage in shameless self-advertisement by sending the link to all my family and friends. What is this Apollo lecture? It's very prestigious. Really have to know a lot of people in order to get in, I'm not sure. So, but anyway, thanks so much. This has been, it's been fun to do this kind of research. It's been fun to do this kind of thinking on my own without having some kind of test or some other kind of objective other than just to learn and talk about this stuff. So hopefully, I had hoped to have it larger than life. Manet's bar at the Folie Bergère. I've had Miss ZB coaching me on how to say these things, and I'm afraid I'm going to mess it up. That's right here. Okay, Jason's holding this one, and this is where I'm going to be talking for the most of the time. So it's worth it to you guys to go home and try to look it up. This is Edouard Manet's Bar at the Folie Bergère. And I want to start by asking, what is she looking at? Is she looking at anything? Why the glassy-eyed stare? And what's with the dizzying, disorienting hall of mirrors behind her? Why has Edouard Manet and his Bar at the Folie Bergère, painted in 1882, given us such a human puzzle? Why is this the painting that prompted one art historian to say of Manet, he is the painter, the true painter, who showed us how grand we are in our polished boots? Before we move on to these hard questions, we should say something about the school of art that Manet represents. It's called Impressionism, and it started in Paris in the mid-19th century. Impressionists were reacting to the sort of art that had gone before them, the triumphs of mounted warriors, or the celebration of royal lineage, political art meant to glorify a regime. But the Impressionists wanted to go beyond all that, to see people and landscapes for their own sake, and not for the sake of some paying patron. They took their subjects as landscapes and ordinary people, preferring to capture their lives rather than become sellout portrait painters to the highest bidder. Take Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. It's probably the most recognizable Impressionist work. Now, you have to admit, this is not what a night sky looks like. It's not supposed to be a photograph or an exact representation. Van Gogh wanted to capture not the sky, but the emotions that the sky evokes, the imprint on the viewer, the dazzling sensation that comes not from the sky itself, but from our impression of the sky. It's a drama of emotion and excitement. It's a night made personal. All of the stars are blazing for me. So let's go back to our barmaid and consider first the setting. The Folie Bergère was a celebrated social hotspot, often frequented by the more affluent Parisian. Its ballroom is more or less, in the picture, how it appeared in the late 19th century. Its fixtures are accurate. The lighting was as painted. Also, the barmaid is a real person. I had another portrait of one of Manet's, I was going to say, I have a real portrait of her here. Her name was Suzanne. Manet apparently thought so much of her that he invited her back to his studio to pose as the subject of what would become this painting. Right away, those familiar with the razzle-dazzle of high living in the 19th century Paris would have known exactly what they were seeing, and perhaps exactly who they were seeing. But there are some problems if we want to take this painting realistically. First, we can see that Suzanne is standing in front of a mirror. Her reflection is captured behind her. We can see what she sees, a wild party and a forest of top hats. There's drinking, dancing, and everyone is having a good time. There is even evidence of a trapeze artist whose feet you can see dangling in the upper left corner. But Suzanne's reflection is not where it should be. Instead, It's off-center, it's distorting us, it's making us question our perspective. Secondly, the bar in the mirror ends abruptly, allowing us to see the bottles and other items kept below the mirror. But the bar on which Suzanne leans continues off the canvas. Then look at the bottles on the bar. They are almost duplicated in the mirror, but not precisely. Their number and orientation suggests that they are not reflections, but perhaps a separate set of bottles. In fact, if you could see it closer, you could examine each item on each side of the mirror. And you can see that nothing in the reflected version of the painting is exactly related to the objects in the foreground. Why is it that this mirror almost reflects reality? Well, the way I see it, there are two possibilities. One is that there's two mirrors, one directly behind Suzanne, showing us near her rear reflection and the patron in front of her. But then, why are these two images not duplicated, or at least not duplicated precisely? And why can't we see any hint of the bowl of oranges to Suzanne's right? And what does this do to the party in front of Suzanne? Would it not invert them, making them a reflection of a reflection? The other possibility is that there is no reflection here at all. Suzanne is facing backwards, and there is a nearby identical barmaid with nearly an identical set of bottles next to her on a nearly identical bar. Neither of these explanations can satisfy us, nor can I see the point in making such a picture that confuses for the sake of confusion. Such would turn Manet into a cheap magician and his barmaid into a card trick that keeps us looking for the sleight of hand. Well, this is all very puzzling. And if we take it literally, if we think of a painting as a window into a real space, if we try to see it this way, we must conclude that this space cannot physically exist. So what's going on here? Let's return to our definition of Impressionism and see if we can arrive at a better conclusion. First, we said that Impressionists are not interested in duplicating reality perfectly. They're not substituting paintbrushes for cameras. Impressionists are trying to capture a feeling, an emotion, an experience, rather than achieve accurate depiction. So looking to solve the mirror gag, if there is such a thing, is to, well, miss the point. We have to come to terms with a depiction of a visual world that does not make sense. Manet is clearly at pains to tell us this. So let's return to what seems to be the focal point of the painting. Suzanne's face. How would you characterize her expression? Sadness? Boredom? Anxiety? Ambivalence? I don't think any of these really fit. In fact, I don't think that expression is even the right word to use for Suzanne's face. She's giving what shell-shocked veterans will later call the 1,000-yard stare. Manet is painting at a time of deep social division. As a result of Europe's Industrial Revolution, some people in the late 18th century grew fabulously wealthy, while others sank into poverty. The lucky few in between were chosen from the ranks of the poor and employed in places like the Folies Bergère, where their job was to meet the needs of paying customers. They were the invisible service workers, the waiters, the cooks, the maids, the gardeners, and of course, the barmaids. This is a snapshot of the distorted world in which these people exist. They are a necessary part of the party, but they are hardly invited. It's as if Manet has taken Suzanne and robbed her of her personhood and reduced her to just another item. As a vampire has no reflection because he does not exist in the world of the living, Suzanne's being likewise exists between two worlds, the world of the rich and the world of the poor. As one art historian put it, the barmaid appears before us as more of a commodity, similar in shape and objective appearance to the bottle on the counter than as a consumer. That's exactly what I think Manet has done to Suzanne. He has masterfully emptied her of everything we might consider human: thoughts, emotions, hopes, anxieties. And he has ranked her among the purchasable goods on the table. Look at the fruit beside her. It is not there just as an item to balance out Manet's brilliant color scheme. It's a symbol, generally employed in European art of this period as suggestive of prostitution. But we need not jump to the conclusion that Suzanne is just an advertisement for sex. Look at her face. Is that really the best way to attract your potential clients? Secondly, the European middle class was far too puritanical to put a common streetwalker in such a visible position at their shindigs. But still, we can say that she's presented as just another commodity for sale, a person to be bought and sold, a plaything for the rich, something to entertain them while they carry on about the business of being wealthy. Is this then social commentary? Or is this a gimmick just to entertain us? I think this is what truly great art does. It excuses itself from the task we have assigned it, the mere delivery of pleasure. It forces us to consider something more. Suzanne's expression tells us nothing, while at the same time, it lets us in on everything. Thank you.